Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for round two of the multi-class madness series presented by Simufur, where we throw our pros in the slowest cars and we bring our AMs up to the spotlight, running the GT3 machines for the overall win. We're going to be following along for another round of chaos, which we started off at Brands Hatch in an extremely chaotic race that proved to pull all kinds of challenges out of the woodworks for all of our drivers. My name is Plasma. I'm here joined by Paliku'i. Grant, we are going to be commentating through the rest of this event and taking you through what chaos is sure to ensue.
Yes, as you know, we had our first round at Brands Hatch, and that definitely had us on our toes for the entirety of the race. And today, we're at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, an iconic course, the Brickyard, as all of our drivers are going to be tackling this course. As you can see here, as Azure comes along after the turn 6 straight, coming into turn 7, I mean, there's a lot more room, but that doesn't mean there's going to be less chaos, as we hope that traffic's going to be managed a little better. But you never know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a much wider track, but Indy Road is going to still lend ourselves to a bit of chaos. Few heavy braking zones, a lot of places where faster class cars are going to want to get past these slower class vehicles. The GT3s are going to gain tons of time through that second sector and even kind of the entire first sector as well, just with all the aero that those cars have and really keeping that medium speed advantage up. Of course, the power difference too. Big long straights on the back straight and the main straight as we roll on here with the oily rags actually chasing that in Azure. You'll be able to see the speed difference by the end of the straight here, and it is quite significant as we roll down. Actually, I think oily rags just warming up their tires, letting Azure kind of settle in, but very, very long straight, braking at around 500 feet out. It's going to be a bit of a challenge to see some of our M2 drivers actually adapt, because I'm sure some GT3s, some late last minute sends, and there's not a lot of runoff there, at least not a lot of forgiving runoff if you do make a mistake or have to avoid anyone.
Yes, and as you say, I believe Oily Rags was the one that I believe won our last race overall in the GT3 class. Looking for another strong performance today. I think they're just getting warmed up. As you can see, it's following along. There's Azure up ahead. But the key here is going to be managing the traffic, as of course it's a much wider course, a lot more places to pass. And yeah, I think Oily Rags is just warming up their tires and just having a little fun, as I think we have a Mercedes coming along right behind. As we see Blade Wolf, they cross the line. Of course, this is just practice. They're all getting to grips with their cars, getting ready for qualifying, which is going to happen in about 4 minutes, 30 seconds time. So we're hoping for some fun, iconic racing here, as we know that throughout all the classes we have our slowest, as the pros are in the M2 BMWs, the silvers are in the GT4s, and then of course as we watch Oily Rags, the AM drivers, they're in the fastest GT3 cars today.
Yeah, and it's quite a chaotic mix. I mean, you're gonna have all levels of experience. Many of our drivers only partaking in sprints and not having tons of our experience with a multi-class. So for them, it can be an early dip into the water of understanding multi-class traffic and how to adapt to it. Of course, our pro drivers many times are very experienced, but oftentimes not in the lower class car, maybe sticking in their higher class car. So it does scramble some things up, and the M2s as well. We've seen it with the M2 Championship. We've seen it with Brent Hatch. Always produce fantastic racing. And of course, you have our typical GT4 and GT3 racing that produces a good show as well. But I am actually really, really looking forward to these M2s with the long straights, and we can see our cars actually queuing up to do a practice safety car procedure, as we do have the numbers to be able to man a safety car today.
Yes, I believe, as you can see, that Cayman Porsche out in the front, I believe that is the safety car for today. They will show up on the timing sheets, but they will most likely be all the way down in last. Just, it's the limitation that ACC has, so in order to have a live safety car, they will need to be on the timing, but they won't be participating in the race per se. Hopefully we won't need them, but as we say, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, as I believe Saber is doing a practice pit in while the safety car is bringing them around. So yeah, get some practice time, pit lane entry in there too. It's always nice to get it in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's better to have it and not need it, but we've seen the chaos that has ensued with last week at Brands, or 2 weeks ago actually at Brands Hatch. We immediately pulled out the code 50, which I believe is the first time since the M2 champ at Watkins Glen, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe the M2s are the culprit of everything, but quite a while since we've had to pull out any kind of safety procedures. So better to have it, not need it, of course, but if we do end up needing some kind of code 50 safety car procedure, I think many of our drivers would enjoy the chaos that a safety car brings out, bringing everyone back onto the same level.
I mean, you just take a look right here. There it is, number 995, Firebrand Page, our driver for the safety car today. But it's good to have the practice start. You see that beautiful livery for the Simufur safety car there. Yep, that's just as good as any of those race cars out there. Everyone's following along, nice and slow. But yeah, it's good. I believe they were talking about that in the drivers' meeting of how they were going to practice it. And it's good procedure-wise to just have it there so everybody knows what to do when something like that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, practices like this we've seen save quite a few people, as we've had plenty of mishaps under safety car practices that have come through and then been prevented in the race. I mean, the last thing you want is for 4 or 5 people to get caught up in cars getting spun around and turned and destroyed, all mangled up, and ruining their race just because they were trying to equalize the field after a massive incident that already caught up several other cars. So it keeps things fair, it lets everyone have a proper opportunity to have their best race possible. And we can actually see on board here with Zephyr leading the pack in the Viper liveried. The Le Mans actually Viper livery, Mercedes GT3. A little bit I don't know how I feel about that. A V8 car with a V10 car's livery. I guess it's probably the closest looking car to the Viper, but still a little bit of a heresy there, if I have to say so myself.
Well, the livery is cute given the track right here today. Of course, Indianapolis Motor Speedway being the U.S. And of course, the Viper being a U.S. design automobile on a Mercedes GT3. As for any of the Keen-eyed viewers that will see it, this is our poster car for the thumbnail of today's live event, and I see that they are practicing the start as the safety car is pulled in, and then they're off. And I believe they're going to be attempting a full race to the checkered flag here at the end of practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see once that safety car pulls away, it is up to that lead car to kind of control the pace of the field. And they're allowed to go once that safety car is confirmed in the pits. And then our session restarts. So only a run to turn 1. Very, very short trip. But as we see the aerial shots of Indianapolis, a very, very beautiful facility, 2.5 mile oval around the outside of our internal road course. One of the best tracks in North America, if not also one of the most historic tracks in the world. But we're going to be following out Azure here, leading the way in the RRP M2, which Azure didn't have the best race last time out. They were a little bit disappointed. A bunch of contact and collisions kind of causing them issues, as Taichi also appears snuck by on the pit exit. So looks like Taichi in the TGR car, the number 32, is going to be running out to get things started. The quick outlap, you say quick, but relative for the M2s, right? To get everything started. A reminder that these cars also don't have any tire warmers. So this is a very skatey outlap, needing to get temperature in the tires. And really these first 2 or 3 laps tend to not be very representative.
I mean, and also, given the extra challenge, I mean, these are all pro drivers. They're experienced at what they do in the sim and in the Assetto Corsa, so they know how to handle the vehicle coming out. They should be doing a little bit of tire warming, scrubbing the tires a bit coming into the turns. But, yes, this is a decently long course with a few good straights. We're going to take a look. Once Taichi gets across the start-finish line, we'll go ahead and give you a rundown of the track. That's going to be courtesy of our good friend Plasma here. But in the meantime, as we can see, Taichi just making sure they hit all the apexes, getting the tires nice and warmed up, getting ready to do the first outlap here in Indianapolis Motor Speedway today, as I believe he's coming around. That's turn 11 right there. One of two parts you're going to see that uses the actual square oval, if I may, of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And of course, the second one being turn 14 that goes down to the long straight. Ooh, has a little bit of a moment there. But now we're going to ride on board and Plasma take it away. Here we go. Start of a lap here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Of course, the infinitely long straight from the number 32, staring down what feels like it takes forever to run all the ways to turn 1, but as you spot through here, you're trying to scan through these brake markers, braking right around that 500-foot board, rolling into the brakes, lots of speed, but you don't want to slow down too much because this is all pretty much flat out once you put that power back down. A little bit of front end washing for Taichi, so a little bit shaky, and then open up, braking earlier here than you think you need to because you're trying to set yourself up for the double right-hander coming through turns 4 and 5, all flat out again into turn 6. Very long braking zone. You're gonna see a lot of actually overtakes coming through here, people opening up opportunities. A lot of battles start coming through into turn 7, which is actually just shy of a hairpin, leading onto our back straight as we run down towards turn 8. Another section where I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a lot of overtakes. It's going to certainly be a lot of chaos here for multi-class traffic as it's hard on the brakes. You can use a little bit of this curb here, especially in the M2s, really conserve that momentum and then open up this section. All of the curb to be used here. So our drivers have to be careful. Easy to pick up a puncture on the inside of those curbs. And then all of the curb on the inside of 11. That's where we might see some drivers risking picking up some penalties for some off tracks. Very, very easy to take too much there and pick up a track cut warning. As we go hard down into 13, tip it in again over the curb a little bit, a little conservative from Taichi as we roll through the final 2 corners. Really need to sacrifice that left to get on power early for the right, because once again onto that long straightaway leading onto the final straight. You have about half this straightaway to run until you bank that time, and our first time is going to be banked by the number 32 of Taichi. Already 4 minutes into the session, we'll be starting off with a benchmark of a 149.8. Immediately is going to be beaten by Azure with a 149.0. So the pace is quite a long lap for these M2s. The Indy Road course is fairly short circuit, but when you don't have a lot of power, it drags on for quite a while.
Yes, and it's even more prominent that you set your car up, especially in these cars that don't carry too much momentum and have a lot of difficulty getting that momentum back, where those, I believe it is turn 7 and turn 15 are going to be your most important corners here. Turn 7, as we can see Azure coming out, and that's going to lead into a long straight to a hard braking zone, and the exact same thing with turn 15, that long sweeping right-hander that goes into the start-finish line straight. That's going to be where you're going to gain and lose the most time, as I see already some improvements coming up the board. Randomy right now up about half a second from their best. Their best was a 149.4. As we know, right now, the time to beat is a 149.077. So if Randomy can keep this pace up coming through here, then they may have provisional pole, as I think that's Sabre pulling along to the side. I think abandoning their lap, they're going to try again after this. I believe these guys only have 4 minutes left in their session to actually set a time, as after them, the Silvers are going to be up and setting their times.
Yeah, and there's not a lot of opportunity to really set your lap times. As we talked about, fairly long lap time, and you have a 10-minute qualifying window. On top of that, you have tires that are already not really going to be getting up to temperature very quickly. So you're mixed with this multitude of factors that are fighting against you to set this qualifying time. So it is really up to our drivers to be able to get their nose to the grindstone and put these times in now, as Azure improves to a 149.017 and rolling through. But there's green throughout our timing screen, as we see quite a few drivers looking for improvements. Danek and Wushel immediately trying to threaten Azure for that pole position, and it looks like it's going to be Simon Luck coming up from down the order, immediately taking that pole position, and demoted twice by Randomy, putting in 148s. And then immediately after by Christian Kippert, who's going to be setting another fastest lap at a 148.6. So this is where those tire times start coming in quickly. We've already dropped about half a second from our initial provisional pole lap time, and it's only going to be getting faster as we get deeper into the session. But we're looking at maybe about 2 laps left, maybe 3 if you're at the front of this train. So time very, very quickly running out.
I think Christian also had a great slipstream there, and that with these slower cars is indeed a factor. You just have to make sure you're in the right place at the right time. Christian following 2 fast drivers, getting the slipstream off of them and being able to nail the time, in which they did. And with the 148.6 flat, I mean, that's competitive. Right behind him is Randomy with a 148.8, and then right behind is Simon with a 148.9. And so, I mean, it's going to take some doing to improve those times for Randomy, Simon Luck, maybe even Azure, possibly Denek to get up there, as they're all really close to each other. I think right now, all the way back to 10th place, Vossi, the times are within 1 second, so it's still anybody's game as these times improve.
And you say that, and actually down the order, we're looking at Taichi with a big gain at about 6/10, promoting them up to P4. Still not enough to steal pole position away, but starting to put themselves in contention, as it looks like they might be one of the last drivers to get a second lap here, as most of our drivers... Oh, actually a big spin coming from Taichi. They need to get that car back to track fast, but no, they're going to return to pits. That's going to be the end of qualifying for Taichi. Only going to be getting a maximum of P4. As Christian immediately takes back another pole improvement at a 148.5, putting Azure firmly into that second position. But again, about maybe on the border of if they're going to get another lap. I think they might have just missed out. So this is Christian's last attempt at getting a good lap. Azure, who is currently improving by about 1 to 2 tenths, is looking at possibly getting 2 laps out of this event. But time very, very short. I mean, it feels like only, what, 3-4 laps that have been put in by most of these drivers, and they're going to have to sit with that and let that determine where they're going to be at in the race.
Yes, all of these drivers had, most of them are on lap 4, aside from, I think, Ty and Fox and Vossi. And Kivik also, but Ty and Fox, speak the devil, they popped themselves up to provisional second place with an impressive 148.770. Now, we're still following Azure coming down, but I think that's going to be the last lap for... No, I think Tyen's going to get 1 more. So it's around 5 laps if they started, and they went full bore all the way through. So we're going to continue with Azure. We'll see if Azure manages to get it so they can do 1 more lap. I think they will. There's 30 seconds left on the clock for your last lap to count, and so Azure is going to cross the line. Of course, not an improvement in time, but we'll have 1 more lap, so we'll follow along. Of course, Tyen right now must have found something out of there. Had 4 tenths coming through turn 7, lost it all in the straight. And I think that's exactly what we mean by carrying that momentum. If you're not able to hit the turn right, especially in those important sections, you gain a lot of time coming in, but you lose it all coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. And these cars being very momentum-based cars, you really want to focus on settling yourself in for a good run out of these corners. Don't want to dive in very hard. Very easy to lose a lot of momentum, scrub the car a little bit more than you need to, on top of the lack of benefits that you would see for tire wear. It's, of course, just going to kill all that momentum as well. So looking to try to carry that last little bit of speed running over the curb this time. We talked about the M2s being able to take a lot of curb, maybe a little bit too much, coming in from the number 55 and some curb on the outside. And that is surely going to be the end of their lap, killing some momentum on the outside. Yeah, it looks like their times are falling off as well. So ending qualifying for P2 in for Ty and Fox, but a couple other drivers improving down the order, trying to sneak in the last lap times as we see some GT4s chasing out the M2s out of the pits. Of course, these M2s are entitled to be finishing their lap. They are allowed to do so as they cross the line before their qualifying ended. We will see if the GT4s will allow them to do so unhindered, though.
Yeah, it's when we're driving along with Simon Luck right now, right outside the top 5. It would be very nice to actually get in a lap, get in that final lap, make a little bit of improvement, possibly start within, hopefully, Well, he's already in the front 3 rows, but he wants to improve it. Any position counts, especially here into turn 1. It's so critical that you get that good start here, especially given the straights. And we'll see, coming down, looks like turns 14 and 15 now. I'm not seeing an improvement on the Delta. It's almost matching his time, but looking at it, only 0.02 of a second separate him from 5th place. Will he get it? No, it was a 148.945, 300 slower than his fastest lap, so he's going to have to settle for 6th place as we go along with the GT4s here.
Yeah, the GT4s are going to be rolling out to start their first laps, and it's going to be quite an interesting series because, again, the GT4s, much like the M2s, coming out with cold tires. They might be comfortably within that range to get the extra lap, but quite an interesting mix as well for our drivers. There's going to be, of course, our Chevy Camaro running in its home race, not far away from Detroit, the India Road course situated just a couple hours away. But then with the mix of the KTM, which is probably the most different car that you could be running to the Camaro on a course like this. It's going to lead to some interesting qualifying times, and I'm really curious how some of these drivers are going to be able to take to it, not only in qualifying, but of course the race.
Well, as we switch on over to Zizors here, one of the Mercedes GT4s that were out there, we saw a few of them already catching up to the M2s. Thankfully, they are all clear at the moment, and they're all, I believe, running their first timed laps now. As we take a look, you can see how close to the edge Zizors is right now, trying to get the most out of their tires. Still a little cold, still needs to warm them up a bit, but we'll see where the times stay as I believe that is turn number 13 they're heading into now, taking a lot of curbing there. You gotta be careful there. You don't want to run that too much during the race. That's gonna probably let out a lot of air in your tires the more you use it. But as we follow along, turn 15 coming up here, Zizors, I think, is going to be the first one to set a fast timed lap, or I could be wrong, this could be his out lap. We're going to find out. Nope, it was indeed a timed lap. A 144.8 is the benchmark, as, of course, Araz, right behind him, sets a 144.597, and now the race is on. The GT4s are now crossing the line, putting up their times, and we'll see who can be the best out here. Of course, Araz with the Ginetta with the 144.5, that's going to be the benchmark.
Yeah, and it is going to be quite tight in qualifying, as whereas we saw very, very strong in Brands Hatch, having to remember what track we were at not 2 weeks ago. Zizor is putting on a good performance, though, for that first opening lap. I believe it was a little bit of a one-horse show for Uraz for the start of qualifying, though, but then everyone started closing in. So it'd be interesting to see once people get more and more comfortable with these tires, once they start picking up a little bit more grip in the second half of this qualifying for GT4s, if they're able to pull themselves a little bit closer. Remember that Sauce Dragon was also another driver in contention for that pole position, both the RRP drivers putting on a good show last time out, and I believe it was also Zizor was able to steal it from Uraz in the dying seconds of qualifying for GT4. So not over till it's over as we roll through onto the back stretch coming out of turn 11 as we roar turns 12. Ginetta really looking forward to this section. Nice nimble car, hard on the brakes, very good direction change as well. We roll through, looks pretty well put together for Uraz, not too bad so far. Then rolling through the second to last corner, hard on the power very early. The Ginetta tending to struggle with that, not looking forward to this straightaway, but eyes up to that checkered flat as they look to see where they'll improve. It'll likely be an improvement here from Uraz coming across the line. Yes, it'll be exactly that at 144.1. So about 7/10 of drift from Zizor. Actually, exactly 7/10 of drift from Zizor. So looking for anyone to try to take that challenge to Uraz. Otherwise, we might be looking at another Ginetta clinic.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised that I believe that was a turn 14 that they were coming in through. That was not invalidated, so you could take a lot of that curving, even almost getting onto the grass, but you still got to be careful. You really don't want to push the limits too much too early on, or you're going to find yourself having to conserve a lot as you'll have all of your track limit warnings used up, and you'll be at risk for a drive-through.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the last thing you want to be picking up is a drive-through in a situation like this. And we've seen how close the races are. The chaos might help you out, but at the end of the day, last thing you want to be picking up. So as we roll through the back section of the track, Caesar's going to be taking our roll through the second sector, end of the second sector, and it's looking pretty good for Zezors, actually. Quite a well put together section. The Mercedes actually looked like it was responding quite well. Very good turn-in on each of those direction changes. But is it going to be enough to try to take that challenge to Orez? It looks like they had an invalid 144.0. So it's just a matter if they're going to be able to bank this lap. A lot of curb on the outside there, even some grass as well. Could be upsetting the run for Zezors here as we roll onto the back stretch. Is this going to be enough? So it looks like the sector times we're aiming towards possibly being able to beat, or as it was about 5 to 6 tenths in the first 2 sectors, but it's going to be about a tenth and a bit of drift from Oraz's time, who is then immediately going to raise that benchmark to a 144.175. So stepping up every lap of the way, Zezor's now going to be looking to try to stretch their legs just that much more and reach up to that pole position.
I mean, if Zezors can get that invalid lap valid, that 144.017, they have a good chance at passing Oraz, but they have to put it all together. And that's just, it's one of the most difficult things to do, especially in qualifying. You have the pace, but you have to make sure that you put all the pieces together in every single corner. It's not easy to keep your focus and keep your car online for that entire section and the entire course length. But Zezors is trying to make it work. Up a tenth, got a decent run coming out of turn 7. So just trying to hook it together. As you can see, he's trying his best to hold the line and really put the car on the edge. You can see it's skirting the grass, but making it work. Up 3/10 so far, but where it matters is right here. See, they gained up 3/10, but just a little bit of the momentum pulls him back down. But so far, so good for Zezors. Just has to bring it here in the last section here. This can make or break the lap if you go in a little too hard. And exactly that. Went in a little too hard, I believe, turn 13, and invalidated their lap right on the edge of the grass there. And that's just unfortunate. He looks like he's pushing his car all the way to the end. Still up a tenth. But, of course, they're going to try for, I think, they're going to have time for one more lap here. So, but right now, it's Oraz and Zezors trying to fight through it. Zezors, this is make or break time now. He has one more lap to make it work. And so here he comes through turn 1. Let's see if he can get it done.
Yeah, and it's going to be rolling through turn 1s to 2. So it looks like it was well put together. Decent exit as we run towards 3. And hard on the brakes. Nice and early for Forgood on that power. Nice and early. Drive it all the ways out to the curb and just let the car stretch its legs. But a little bit of grass here that might cost some time for Zezors. Those tires are going to lose some grip. And then we roll through 6. Infinitely long corner, really trying to keep the speed up with some weight on that nose, and into 7, really trying to get that throttle on very early, as it looks like Oraz in the back is also bailed out of their attempt. So this is just on Zezors to be able to set the lap. As we go hard on the brakes into 8, we are going to try to roll the car through, and it looks like Zezors actually able to get the car opened up early on to the power 4.9, and then set it up for 10. Careful of that inside one more time, just trying to get the drive through. It looks like Zezors was able to set that up quite well. So this is just the final sector where it's been the bane of their existence, trying to just finish out this lap. Lots of time to be gained here for the number 6 as we roll through a little bit of curb, but well put together, bringing the car all the ways over. Good direction change. Is it on the right time? A lot of curb on the inside that could cost them. But if they're able to get the power down, keep that momentum up, it might be enough. So we roll down towards the main straight. It's not tracking too well in our live timing.
No.
And no, it is not. Zezor's just missing out on being able to hit that provisional pole position. But back behind them, it's going to be Blade Wolf looking at another improvement. About a quarter second through the first 2 sectors. Just one more sector to piece together.
Yep, and this could be for position improvement up to... If they can nail this section right here, they could go up to 4th, possibly 3rd if they push it a little bit further. I think Blade Wolf will settle for 4th place. Up 3/10, coming to the start-finish line straight. Let's see how big of an improvement. Their last lap was a 145.1, And now it's a 144.7. Good for third place. Way to go when it's needed to count. Manages to gain 2 places at the last second on the last lap here for their qualifying. And they're excited as they blow right through. They blow right through. Looks like the arrows there. As we go on now to our AMs.
Yeah, and our battle for the overall pole position. Of course, we mentioned it. The AMs filling out the GT3 grid. Only, I believe, 7 people out here for the GT3 competition, so a little bit tame for our GT3 grid. But we also have the brand new Mustang making its, I believe, Simufur debut. I don't believe we've had any opportunity to run it, and Wolfen taking the first opportunity that they can to run this beautiful machine. Of course, just recently added in the patch about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And immediately after a Brands Hatch race, pretty much, and everyone immediately jumped on it, very excited for this car. A couple bop adjustments to really get it in line with everything else, but it looks like it's in a decent spot to be one of the fan favorite cars, one of the more approachable cars. Just need to get used to its weird gearing. Well, Wolfen's going to take us around for a lap as we roll onto the main straight out of the final corner and down the main straight. So exiting 15, we're going to be seeing Wolfen take that run, of course. A couple other cars in the way, Swingley, you can see in the foreground. In the background, I'm actually not too sure who's running that bright green Porsche. But into the apex, maybe a little bit wide, actually, from Wolfen. And then it's struggling to get the car set up for Tuesday. Very easy to see that once you miss that first apex, you're already kind of struggling for that second.
I think that Porsche back there, and oh, Snowdog goes wide again. I think that was the 919 of Snowdog in that bright green Porsche. Yeah, as we know, of course, this is the debut, Simufur debut of the new GT3 Mustang. And when it debuted on ACC, on Assetto Corsa Competizione, everyone was excited. This thing has been tearing it up in IMSA for a little bit, and it was nice to finally see it in action as we see Lappel now coming around, setting their fastest time right behind Derg, and then Sarah. So we see the times coming in now. They're pulling up there. The AMs are actually, I believe we have 12. The screen you were saying was actually our GT4s. The broadcaster was a little slow on changing over to GT3s. Whoopsie. But yeah, it's Sarah right now. Looks like setting the pace to 137.6. A solid, looks like half a second in front of Cammers with 138.15. So yeah, these are all the AM drivers, and as you know, Simufur, we take all classes of driver, all experience levels. Come on down, have some fun. That's the whole point of why we do this, why we have multi-class madness in our class systems. It's just you'll find some competition here, you'll make some friends. It's great atmosphere, and I can't say enough about these guys. They're always so much fun to hang out with.
You sure they aren't giving multi-class madness a go for us to have a headache? Because certainly last time out, we didn't really get a chance to breathe. It looks like we might get a little bit more of a break this time around, just knowing the characteristics of Indy Road Course. But I don't know if it's going to be a calm race. Looking forward, but
oh, I'm looking forward to it too. I'm not sure if it's going to be a calm race either, but I'm totally there for it. The calm races, we get to sit back and talk our stories, and then of course, on races like what happened at Brands Hatch, we can commentate until we nearly pass out, which almost happened. I'm pretty sure at a couple of points you needed some water as Sarah improves their lap time again to a 136.867, now almost a full second ahead of Zephyr, who actually managed to get ahead of Cammers with a 137.8. And Sarah's putting up some impressive times of that GT3 Mercedes.
yeah, it's looking like it's taking to this track like a duck to water. Mercedes seems very, very planted. Of course, we saw that Zezers was able to put some good times in with the Mercedes GT4, and as well as Zephyr down the order as well. And P3 is actually putting in some strong times as Sarah goes off track, probably just resetting their laps. And Cameron's actually taking the challenge, jumping into the Lamborghini. I believe our second Lamborghini after Lappy had come into the series with the Lambo. So looks like we're going to bring in a Lamborghini to the front end of the field as Cammers is going to be bringing the car through turn 6 and into 7, rolling down into the main straight, getting that power down early and all the ways up to the curb. You see some rear end instability there, just trying to fight the car not wanting to put all that power down with such a tight radius of a corner. Into 8. Lambo not really a car that can take many curbs, so it might be a disadvantage rolling through here. It looks like Cameron's actually putting themselves on for quite the good lap.
Yes, quite the good lap, but it's going to take one stonker of a lap to get Sarah. I mean, Cameron is right now up 4/10. Oh, but gets into traffic. That's going to affect their time. They're still up on the Delta, but they're going to lose a couple of tenths off of that. I'm not sure if they're going to be very happy with what transpired there. They looked like they tried to get out of the way, but just coming into what I believe was turn 12, they were just there. But thankfully, Cameron's looking like they're making the best out of it, and pretty sure they're going to make another go at it. They're going to improve now with a 137.3. So slowly but surely chipping away, but you really don't have much time left. I think they're going to have 2 laps to get up to where Sarah is at the moment. That is, if Sarah doesn't continuously improve. So we'll see if Cameron is up to the challenge.
Yeah, and it's a very, very quick shot. Of course, it looks like Sarah's going to be running around for another little shot of a lap here, just going in for maybe a short pit cycle or just splitting up that qualifying in half. The camera's already on a very big improvement through the first 2 sectors, already about half a second, so missing a lot on that initial phase. Maybe those tires are finally in the window that they want them to. Still a little bit of stability and issues on the exit of 7, but still a decent run out as we roll through. JPEG in the foreground there, hopefully just far enough ahead for cameras to finish out this lap into 8 and then 9. Tipping the car into the left for 10. Ooh, a little bit wide from cameras. This might hurt their lap as they have to narrow up that car. And oh, that's surely going to invalidate the lap.
No, it did not.
Apparently, this camera is going to run the car down towards 12. Hard on the brakes. A little bit of curb on the inside of 13. 14 inside of 12, setting up for 13. It looks like it's going to be well positioned to set the car up for 14. So is Cameron's going to be able to step up and make that adjustment in qualifying? Certainly time left on the table as we saw on the exit of 10 there, but Cameron's is going to take a step up to 136.82, pushing Sarah half a tenth behind, who now is forced to respond if they want to try to get this pole position.
It's not, Sarah doesn't have to do much, but still has to do something. That was about, I believe, 0.04 of a second faster than Sarah's time. Of course, we're on the last lap for both of these racers now, and Sarah's down 0.2, Cameron's down half a second, so I don't think Cameron is going to actually be able to improve, and not there. Cameron is pulling over. I see on a timing screen as we continue to follow Sarah. Sarah's going to have to push hard in this last sector, down 0.3. I think they're not going to be able to do it. They came in really tight coming to that corner, and yeah, their lap is done, I think. And I'm not sure.
Sneak another lap in.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing on the timing screen, if they just continue flat out. Of course, they're pressured a little bit by Zephyr here. No obligation for them to get out of the way unless they are blue flagged, though. So we're going to see them start another lap. Should win this dash to the line. Zephyr may be losing out a little bit as they pick up some dirty air from the rear wing of that 241. But we saw a lot of stability issues coming in from that Mercedes. Really, really struggling to put the power down. Yeah, Sarah's going to be one of the last cars to be putting in a lap time here. We go hard on the brakes, running into turn 1, sitting about 400 feet out, get the car turned in, use a little bit of curb and open up for turn 2 so you can get that power down early. And it looks like Sarah's doing exactly that. Nice and getting, actually a little bit of curb there is going to unsettle the car, but we roll through 4 early on the power once again, drive the car out. Again, rear end instability, the torque of that Mercedes just twitching around every single time, and they're just asking for any power, and it looks like, yeah, they're going to give up. It was about a quarter second down on that first sector. It was looking good initially to start, but just those twitches are a little bit too much for the Mercedes drivers. It looks like Wolfen's going to be trying to sneak another lap in. The Mustang coming through the final corner, looking like it's going to be a pretty big improvement for them, as yes, they'll take quite a significant step up, putting in a 140.3, so a little bit off of the back a tiny bit, but they certainly aren't off the pack to the point they won't be fighting. Looks like that would definitely be in good company with the people around them.
Wow, what a qualifying session. Decent all the way around for the majority of the drivers here today. As we take a look at just our timing page here, and just looking at Cameron's time, I mean, purple sectors on 1 and 3 manages to just barely get ahead of Sarah by, that is less than 4 hundredths of a second. But that was the difference there. As you can see, I mean, the second sector, Sarah put in one heck of a sector, 4 tenths faster than Cameron's. Of course, we saw Cameron's coming out of, I believe that was, turn 10 and going through 11. I am still amazed that lap wasn't invalidated. Managed to keep tires on the course, so the red didn't appear, and so just manages to inch out Sarah for the lead. And that's all it takes.
Yeah, no, that's all it takes. Even though we're looking at AM drivers, they're still able to pull the timing's really, really close. It's not exactly like you're lacking any kind of talent. The groups are measured out pretty well against each other. Of course, GT4s were another close group. The pole position a little bit further out at a 1.4, or not 1.4 second, a 1/10th gap, about 1.5 tenths for us taking that top spot, and then it's be filled in by Blade Wolf actually sneaking in that third spot. Zezerson P at 2 as well. So not looking about what you'd expect for your usual contenders in GT4, but M2s, what a group we have here.
I mean, look, the delta says it all. From first to 15th is 1.5 seconds. It's all within just a nose of a car, pretty much. And then you have, if you look down all the way up until the top 10, they're all within pretty much half a second of each other. So, I mean, Christian, Tyan, Azure, all within 3 tenths. That's about as quick as it takes for you to blink your eyes and figure out you did that. So
Well, you say all within 3 tenths, but you add one more tenth and just inside of 4, and you have all the ways up to P9.
pretty much a snap of a finger is the deciding difference between all of these drivers right now. And so as we come down and we're waiting for the race start, what do you think is going to be the key for specifically the M2 drivers here, as they're going to be behind both the GT4s and the GT3s on grid up?
Survive. I think we saw plenty of times from the Brands Hatch race. Outside of Grim, he was able to scamper away and wasn't under much pressure for most of the race. It really came down to survival, whether it be by traffic, just surviving the track, or just surviving the race of those people around you. It is really about keeping that car in the right spot. Right now, anyone in the top 9 is in a position pace-wise to be capable of winning this race, and goes without saying that you could very easily see the top 10, if not more, fill in that last little bit of space if they're able to find some time in the race.
Yep, and now we're going to go ahead and go through our grid walk here. Of course, we got a lot of cars to get through. I think about 34 in total, so let's get started. Plasma, we got our leader here, Cameras. Let's get started.
Yeah, Cameron's taking a impressive pole position. We saw it coming in at the end of qualifying. Sarah sneaking into P2 is going to be following up with a front row start. At Mercedes looking really lively, so it'll be very interesting to see how they manage that throughout the race. Starting up in row 2, you're going to see Weiss taking that inside spot of P3, and then Electroshock starting alongside them with the What Team banner, as it looks like they're flying. The number 75 looking to push forward a little bit further. Half second off to the lead, but still a genuinely good time to start with anyways. The Mercedes of Zephyr, number 7 Viper. Is it home soil?
I was going to say, is it the Viper?
I don't know if it is home soil. I'm kind of conflicted there. We'll say home soil for the sake of it because the Viper doesn't exist. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They're going to be lined up alongside our championship leader in the EP3 class of Oily Rags, who took the win out in Brands Hatch. They're going to be starting alongside Zephyr in that third row. Swingley, who we saw a little bit of a chaotic race for them last time out, qualifying quite decently in Indianapolis here. They're going to be sharing row 4 with Derg, the 870, who's going to be filling in that first Ferrari with blue E adorned all over the side of it. JPEG is going to be filling out that inside row of row 10, the number 12 Porsche with a few tasteful choices in color. I'll still give him a little bit of crap for that because he gives me crap on the rear wing of that car. So Lappy is going to be starting alongside them with the RP Academy Lamborghini. The 87 is going to be starting up there. Our second Lamborghini, and that is going to be followed up by Snowdog in the 919, who we saw with an unfortunate race last time out. Qualified well, drove very well. Incidents at the end, them out. While they're going to be looking to charge through the grid here. So watch out for Snowdog running through here, as it is. They are going to be lined up with the Ford Mustang of Wolfen Windows Explorer, trying to say both at the same time. The 529 second Blue E car in the GT3 class. Jumping to our GT4 pole is going to be the 406 of Orez Volpez, and they're going to be alongside a very familiar face of Zizors, who's taking that front row lockout once again for the GT4s. Right behind them, Blade Wolf is going to be trying to take that third spot to a P1, and Sauce Dragon on the outside, another familiar face in that top four after qualifying. Leparcho, that KTM, sitting a little bit off the pace, but looking to try to make some gains. They'll definitely be stronger in race pace, as that car is going to be very nice on its tires. Look for them throughout the course of the race. They're lined up alongside Skylar Vixen in the 660, the American we talked about there. Home race, the American machine, trying to charge through down these long straights. Behind them, Cohen, the number 2, the only Maserati. Absolutely crazy to be running this machine in a multi-class. They're going to be lined up in row 10. They're going to be alongside Christian Klippert, who is our M2 pole sitter, is going to be starting on the outside of the grid. Behind them is going to be Ty and Fox, who qualifies P2, starting on the inside, though, of the second row, so it does throw some things off a little bit. They'll be starting alongside row 11 with Azure Goat, who we saw, again, one of the faster cars on the grid, just needing to keep things clean in the traffic, which has proved to be a challenge of its own, and keep an eye on that through the rest of our pro grid as well. Brandon Mee is going to be starting up in P5 and taking that 666 to the third row, and Taichi Yagami, who we saw starting off our qualifying, is going to be lined up alongside them as well. Simon Luck behind one of our fastest drivers from the last time out in Brands Hatch. Maybe a little bit of a disappointing qualifying for them, but we've seen how tight these gaps can be, so some good battling to be had, looking to make a run up the field, as Wuschel is going to be lined up with them, the number 69, another one of the drivers who is also very familiar with Simon Luck, trying to take a couple positions up from there. Grim Lilith, our previous winner out in Brands Hatch, is sitting way down the order behind Simon, and Wuschel even, I believe, sitting in a in-class P9, actually just underneath that, sorry, P7, added an extra 2 positions. They'll be with Vossi, who is going to be looking to take a challenge down the main straight. These two cars probably looking to get a lot of benefit from draft, so very chaotic turn 1 I'm expecting. Denak is going to be filling out the P29 spot alongside Saber Kitsune, who is going to be trying to look for another gain. Newt as well and Kvik are going to be lined up in the second to last row with Dip and Suzuka Shark filling out the back of the grid at that final row. Firebrand, of course, we talked about, is our pace car. They'll be falling up the grid in case of any incidents, and then immediately dipping into the pits after this first lap. So we see the chaos of the starting grid. The drivers lined up, locked into about 60 kilometers per hour, starting to roll down the order, and eyes locked up to that starting light, and very, very long straight ahead of them into turn 1. Looks like the cars maybe a little bit outside where they should be, but we are green and ready to go. And it looks like a big jump from Zephyr, who's able to get alongside Weiss and maybe get a nose in Swingley as well. So 3 wide in the back already, possibly even 4 once we get into braking here. Looks like we're all well behaved in the front. Maybe a little bit of classic chaos in the back, but it's going to be leading the way as Cameras, who was able to steal that pole position in the last second of the qualifying from Sarah, and immediately in the back, Oiley's trying to make some kind of move up the order right now. They're sitting, actually dropping a position to Swingley at the moment, at risk of dropping another to Dirk, so our championship leader not having the best start, and it looks like almost 3 wide coming through 6 as we set up for 7. Swingley taking that inside and running. Oiley's a little bit wide and contact from Dirk behind. That's multiple cars on the exit of 7. They're going to be caught out our GT4 field, having to take avoiding action as well. I think it looks like it was very well cleared from the rest of them. Our M2's going around the outside as well, just trying to find any kind of gap in the back of the field. It is already extraordinarily mixed. The Camaro over the curb on the inside, forcing Azure wide. It looks like not able to collect the car. Now contact on the inside. Surely there's going to be looking at some kind of recovery process here. Our M2s are, yes, everyone's slowing down. So safety car is coming out here. Again, we talked about that safety car at the back of the field. They should have rolled through to the front of the field to control the pace here. But several cars immediately causing many incidents. I mean, turn 6 was the start of everything. From there, turn 6 and 7 with that first dive, everyone got jumbled up and then immediately caused chaos once you had 3 classes fighting for the same track space into 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah, let's see here. I think we have 660. Skylar Vixen was involved in a couple of accidents, possibly under turn 1 and turn 2. There was a huge incident at the start. So was the number 765. I'm trying to find which vehicle number that is, or if they retired. I'm actually not seeing their car number here anymore on my timing sheet. 919, of course, that's Snow Dog in the Porsche. 87, 55, 32. There was some pretty big, I think, contact out there. I want to see if we can actually take a look here and see what actually happened down there. Let's see if we can take a look at what happened to Snow Dog early on.
Rolling through, it looks like Snow Dog trying to fall through that pack we talked about in turn 7. Immediately contact up ahead. You saw Dirk cause contact here,
I think
and
that was
Snow Dog just completely unsighted. You'd have to imagine. I mean, there was a car immediately in front of them, and then suddenly that car is gone, and there's another one stopped him.
Oh, there's
an incident.
There's an incident on under safety car, I believe. That looks like Simon Luck. Let's see here. And is that Blade Wolf as well? Yes, I think so. I'm wondering what happened there.
Yeah, our safety car sneaking through. It looks like it's unscathed. I don't think it's our safety car causing any issue, but everyone just maybe trying to get sorted out and clear things out. It's decided to maybe fill the same gap. A bit confusing, that one, to be honest.
I'm trying to see if we can find it. I'm not sure if this is exactly it. I'm going to take a look. There is a flag here for a replay. Let's take a look at what this is. If this was the incident and question, or if this was just them slowing down. Yeah, it looks like, that's Blade. It looks like they're slowing. Was there a restart? They're picking up some speed. Oh, and just hits the brakes. Looks like that's Araz involved as well as Wolfen. So, yeah, it looks like they started to speed up, and then now they're slowing down as I see our safety cars pulled off to the side.
Yeah, it looks like possibly just, I imagine everyone's going to roll around and we're going to pick up the leaders of the grid once they roll through here. So racing, I'm doubtful that it's been resumed, and it looks like exactly that. Everyone's just lined up behind cameras who's just pacing the field. Our pace car will pick them up on the exit of 7 there. The start of where all this incidents and contact and craziness. And I think somehow in all of this chaos, Sauce Dragon has snuck all the ways up into overall P7, 6, somewhere in that range.
I think so.
One of our GT4s and fighting with the top of the GT3 field, it almost looks like.
I think so. I mean, with everything going on, I mean, we can check back also while they roll through here. Because I'm not sure. It seems like they're still slow, so I think they're still under safety car at this time as they're rolling over to, I believe, where the safety car was stopped. I think that was the exit of turn 7. Yeah, you saw briefly on your screen there. So as we take a look right now, after all the chaos for our AMs, Cameras is in first, followed by Sarah, and then Zephyr. Those are your top 3. Managed to sneak through everything there, as yes, I believe there's the safety car in front picking them up, and then we're going to have a full safety car here. We go to the GT4 class on our silvers. Sauce Dragon, of course, leading them right now. And then Leparcho with the KTM now managed to pick up a bunch of places there, and Zezor's in third. And then as we check in right now in the class for the M2s, Taichi up in first, right behind Tyan Fox and Simon Luck. So there you go, your top threes from each class as we pick up the safety car, and I believe they're going to be doing a full lap here under the safety car.
Yeah, and you can see that grid actually got mixed up quite a bit. Simon Locke, who started quite a ways down the order, actually all the ways up in P3, which even after that incident, I wonder if they had that position returned to them. But yeah, very easily can see that it's just about survival. I mean, Taichi, who was qualified in P5, all the ways up into P1 in class now, leading that M2 pack, and it explains it more than anything else that you just need to survive this multi-class madness. It goes by the title, right? I mean, it's right there. It's such a low-hanging fruit. You have to pick it, but if you can just survive the multi-class madness, you're going to be able to put yourself in a good position for this race.
And that's the thing about multi-class race, and that's not only indicative of racing here in the sim, that's real life as well. As we know, I believe Spa, they just recently had a multi-class IMSA race. We had a few, I believe, LMP2 drivers that were going out there that had a lot of pace to match out there. I think one of the leaders as well got involved in an incident with a GT3 car. Quite veritably upset when you have to retire both cars because in two separate classes of race you ended up running into each other. So it's not just sim racing. It's all over the sport, but that's the beauty of multi-class. It's not necessarily about having the fastest pace. It's about surviving.
Yeah, it's not just a game. If you die in the sim, you die in real life, right? Fortunately, we're not at that point, and not enough realism that we have to pay for a
Are we ready?
$300,000 race car. Yes, I don't think many of us would even choose sim racing if we had to pick between.
I think I just saw Wolfen on the side of the course there, kind of just sitting there. I wonder what happened.
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
The chaos doesn't stop coming. I mean, safety cars breed safety cars, but safety cars breeding mechanical issues? I mean, you'd have to imagine that's what that is. If maybe even leaving for all the cars to rejoin the circuit and then coming back to join their grid. But
possibly. But now, our safety car is now ahead of the number 529 on our timing screens. I think that will be settled by the time the race gets going and resumed, but I wonder what happened there. I wonder if they just had an issue and they had to pull over for a second.
You'd have to imagine that, or maybe there was some kind of contact. I mean, the car looks fine. I don't see damage on it. I didn't see any on the front end either when it was sitting there. So you'd have to imagine that there's some kind of mechanical issue or something that is just holding them back. But yeah, it looks like Wolfen may have lost a lap in all of this safety car madness. So unsure what's going on there, but we'll have to figure that out in the post-race. I don't think we'll exactly be able to reach out for an interview while Wolfen's in the car.
I don't think so. I mean, we could try, just not sure how willing they would be, or if they would even be able to. But looking at going through the order now, I think one of the things is we look back at that incident, or I believe it was Blade Wolf got involved with Araz, the Janetta there, but I think they may have had an issue with looking at how ACC goes, but we saw the safety car pull in, so it's going to be up to Cammers to control this restart as they come through turn 15. So
and this field's under the control of Cammers, so whenever they elect to go here, they're waiting as long as possible until they cross that start-finish straight. Once they cross that line, anyone's able to jump here as racing has resumed. It looks like the back of the grid's actually started, and it looks like Cammers waiting until the absolute last second. Zephyr taking a run around the inside of Sarah, who is possibly at risk of losing out here as we're side by side in the turn one. A lot of chaos in the back there as well. Sarah able to ring around the outside, hold on to that P2. Zephyr stuck back in P3 as we see several of our cars, almost four wide in the background there. Looks like Denak just hugging the inside side by side with Sabres. We roll through into 3, and they're going to be fighting off as well with Dip, trying to hold that momentum. This is immediately going to swing back to the 54, but contact pushing them wide. The 38 spun into the grass and across the field. I think just settling, yes, in a safe spot, but a very dangerous spin from Dipping Sauce, and they were able to keep the car clean, but the rest of the pack, and you can see everyone just regrouping even after the safety car. I don't think things are settled.
I don't think so. Then going back up here, I mean, even here, I think we saw a move right behind from Weiss, and I think that was electroshock, right in the back there. Just trying to move up on Weiss there, and Swingley right behind. The action's all over, but yeah, as we saw for the M2s, a little bit of argy-bargy there. Not so much up in the front here, thank goodness. But as we resume racing, hopefully we'll get things settled as we go back to our GT4s. Ty and Fox right behind Taichi. Of course, Taichi, the current leader of, I believe, the M2s at the moment, trying to get ready to make a move on Taichi. Simon Luck right behind. You can see the gaggle of cars all following. That's Werschel, Grim, Lilith, Randomy, Vossi, all behind us. Ooh, I think Taichi went a little deep there onto, I believe that was turn 13, coming to 14 and 15. This is where you want to execute your move. You want to make sure you get the momentum there. Slide. You see how much he's sliding that car, getting as much momentum, getting the throttle early, and he might have this move. He may go to the inside here, as we can see Taichi trying to defend, slowly pushing in on the inside, looking to make a move, does a little dive in, swerves back, Tyan now on the outside, side by side, coming into turn 1, into the hard braking zone. Tyan is going to think better of it, letting Taichi go, going for the switchback, but he has to come all the way on the outside. And so Taichi in a great spot, great position for that M2, manages to hold the lead for now.
Yeah, and already we talked about that chaos that the M2s produce and the great racing that comes through while we have a 4-car pack for the lead here, which surely won't get too separated. I mean, the draft reliance that these cars have and the amount of time that they gain with draft is massive. So Taichi has their work cut out for them for the next 45 minutes of this race, give or take a little bit, as they roll through turn 7. And it looks like Tyan's starting to really stretch the legs of that M2. You could see a little bit of slip coming from that number 55, and Simon Luck's going to be following behind. I don't think it's going to be close enough for Tyan to follow through, though, as Wushel is filling up that rear view mirror as well, all the ways up to the rear. You can see filling the top of the screen. And so all these cars line us there, very, very close racing from our pro drivers. Tyan a little bit unstable over that curb up there, but it looks like Taichi might finally be able to stretch their legs a tiny bit as Wushel starts really pushing the back end of Simon Luck here as well. Rolling through the GT3 traffic's now is trying to find a way through around the inside of Simon and outside of Tyan, and Tyan actually looking like they're going for a dive around the outside, and that's going to really open up the gap for Taichi, who's finally going to actually maybe even break the draft there coming towards the end of this second flying lap. Yeah, gap's about 1.4, 1.5 seconds, so a massive gap for Taichi to gain here. It looks like they're very likely going to be outside of the draft, so this is going to be a race on pure pace to just try to close that gap.
Yes, and I think Taichi saw it coming with the traffic, and that was, I believe, Snowdog in the 919 Porsche that cut his way through the M2s, managed to basically create a 1.5 second gap between Taichi and Tyan. So Taichi making it work out. So Tyan's going to have to put a lot of work in as we follow along Simon Luck and Werschel. Werschel almost managing to make the traffic work, was side by side coming out of turn 15 there, but didn't manage to make the pass. Possibly thought better of it. And as we can see right behind, I think that's Vossi and Randomy fighting right now, and Grim Lilith. This is all for position, I believe, P4 in class, and they're side by side coming into, I believe that is turn 7. And Vossi managing to make the pass work. Oh, and Randomy almost losing another position. As a matter of fact, losing another position to Grim Lilith as a GT4 makes it 3 wide down the straight. And it's going to go side by side with, I think, Vossi coming into, I believe that is turn 8. Oh, and they all managed to make it through. And I think that's Blade Wolf right there on the 142 Bluey car, the Aston Martin, trying to get through. You'd see a little frustrated there, but Vossi's none the wiser, making it work out and increasing that gap between them and Grim Lilith, letting them fight it out as Blade Wolf finally manages to get past. Wow, what a sequence.
Yeah, Grim Lilith, we know, is very, very good at closing that gap with the cars in front of them and really opening up that pace. We've seen how fast they were in Brands Hatch, really stretching their legs with a massive finishing margin over the rest of the field. While they now need to survive the mid-pack, because there's still a few more GT4s coming through, as well as a GT3 that still needs to climb. It's actually 2 GT3s that need to climb their way through this pack here. You can actually see them filling the background there. The Chevrolet, the Mustang, there's a Jetta hiding in there somewhere, as well as the Aston Martin of Oily is going to be trying to get through. And a little bit deep coming in from the number 15. That's going to really unsettle Vossi here. It looks like they're going to lose a lot of momentum that opened up the door for Randomy here. Oraz trying to find a gap, as Oilies is also trying to find a gap. 3, almost 4 wide coming in. The 15 trying to keep that momentum around, as now faster traffic takes the inside lane. Looks like Oilie's just backing out a tiny bit, but Randomy is going to be licking their lips as they look at all the opportunities, but none to really be filled. That 666 not able to get into a gap following any of the traffic, so really need to close that gap up just a little bit more, but the time will come, as well as the pit window. Looking at about 3 more minutes until that's going to open. That's going to blow the strategy battle out of the water. All these drivers have about 20 minutes to make their pit stops, and in that pit stop window they just have a mandatory tire change, as well as at least 1 liter of fuel. But actually it looks like a little bit of a moment for Newt up ahead. Saber's going to be pushing behind, but getting a little bit too much curb. You saw some instability shaking through that car, immediately trying to kick them from right to left. So those curbs, we talked about it before, possibly being able to upset the cars, can even cause punctures if you catch them incorrectly. That can play a big factor in this race coming later on.
Yeah, and right here now, this is actually for top 10 position in their class, in the pro class right now in the M2. Saber not really making that work in the traffic. That's what you got to make your moves, especially when the pace is so close for all of these M2 drivers. And if you can't make that work, then the next best thing is to stick close behind them, as we can see. Newt now just pressing forward, trying to make space between Saber. Of course, we move up right now. You see right there, there's Randomy just right in the back of Vossi. Again, trying to make it work, trying to get through, make up that position. And for them, that's going to be for, I believe, 6th place if Randomy can get past Vossi there. And of course, as we know, as Plasma said, 2 minutes until the pit window opens, and everything that we've seen so far goes out the window as we look even further ahead. There is Taichi, our leader. Oh, and we got Ty and Fox coming in on the inside, trying to make a move out of turn 6 into turn 7. Can't quite make it work. I think Tyan is going to go in, as I believe that was Wolfen that was in the wall out there on the edge of turn 7, as we see Tyan and Taichi side by side coming into the next turn as Blade Wolf comes in, possibly going to get up alongside Taichi, compromising their turn in, making it real slow. As you can see, the momentum, there was no momentum there, but Tyan's sticks a nose in, but has to back out. Not enough space in between the cars, not enough alongside to really make it work. Smart move to back it off, save it for another day. We still got 40 minutes left in this race, but my goodness, they are everywhere right now. As we can see, Tyan's trying to let the Camaro by, and I believe that's the 296 Ferraris. Ooh, I think there was some contact in between Multiclass there and Tyan's falls even further back. And now within the grasp of Simon, as I believe right behind that, that's Arez in the Jetta coming through, believe turn 15 into the straight, and just trying to keep it in there, trying to keep it nice and tight to stay behind and fight for the lead once more, as now, unfortunately, he lost 2 seconds from that exchange. Now Taishi is up 2 seconds to the lead, but we know this is far from over.
You know, the lap traffic hasn't come through properly yet. This is the cars that are coming through right now are the cars that were caught up in the early race incidents and are just trying to recover their race. What is going to happen once our lead pack starts coming through with all these M2s tightly grouped together? You can see 3 in 1 picture there. I can only wonder the chaos that's going to come. Surely you're going to see some kind of strategy trying to avoid a little bit of traffic, but
oh,
as how tight these cars are, tying very, very deep immediately after Whereas.
And just like that, 2 positions lost. Tyan as you hear, the pit window is now open, but, you know, as you hear right there, that's, again, one mistake. You've lost 2 positions in this M2 class, and now Taichi's even further ahead. I think he's now 3.5 seconds ahead of now, I believe that is Simon Luck in 2nd place. These positions have been knocked back and forth, and I think what happened with Tyan is Tyan was watching Araz, and Araz went off track, and so did Tyan. That's one of the things, your eyes, where they're located. You can make mistakes if all you're doing is following really closely the car ahead of you.
Yeah, it's very easy to tunnel vision and lock in on the car in front of you, but it's typically something you don't normally do in multi-class because of the performance difference in the cars, but looks like Tyan's being able to reel in the cars up ahead, so the pace is really strong for the number 55. It's just a matter of trying to keep that car on track, keep it out of incidents. Again, we talked about just keeping the car alive. It is more true now than ever with how tightly packed these cars are and all the traffic that's coming through. And we're really not too far off from seeing lap traffic come around. Maybe a couple more laps, actually see some cars sneaking into the pits immediately as that pit window opens, but we're looking at maybe, I'd have to guess, 4 or 5 laps until you're going to start seeing the lead of that AMPAC starting to catch the back of the grid.
Right, but it's taken so long just because of what's been transpiring, especially since we had that safety car in the beginning. But that also threw pretty much what probably was all the pitch strategy out the window. You know, 3 laps under safety car, you save all of that fuel, not much tire wear, and so now you have to really think, while the count and the clock was ticking down in the race, now how do I fix my fuel? As we can see, Werschel pushing really hard, trying to get by Simon Luck, going really wide there out of turn 7. Of course, that's the most important turn you want to get. You lose so much momentum if you cut yourself short there.
Yeah, it's going to be quite a challenge for Werschel to get past here from Simon. We saw them battling all race last time around. And of course, the pressure from time behind is only going to add to that as we roll through. And also picking up that grass, while it is also detrimental to your momentum, you lose a little bit of speed. It does damage the tires a little bit, really damages the pressures. And once those start falling out of the window, you start losing a little bit of extra temperature too. It is near impossible to get those tires back up to where they need to be. And once the air is gone, it is gone. But if it really starts falling out of the window, you might want to dive into those pits. Not to mention the fact that the safety car will put a challenge on all of our drivers to keep their tires in the windows that they wanted, which I think could only further add to all that chaos that we saw. But starting to see things smooth out a little bit as the cars get up to their traditional pace, traditional kind of operating conditions, and really start pushing for pace.
As we are right on board with Tyan Fox here, right behind Simon Luck and Werschel. As we know, Tyan Fox went wide out there, and he's just trying to get that car in. You can see how close you actually get under the braking zone as you come into turns 1 and 2 here, but this is the important part right here, where you get on the throttle coming into the exit of these corners, especially because, as you can see, Tyan's not really going all the way out the exit there, but that's because he's got lapped traffic coming in, and that's the traffic management we're talking about. As you can see, coming in there, now Werschel's going to lose a lot of time. As a matter of fact, Werschel's going to go off track. That's going to allow Tyan Fox to gain a position, and just almost as if on cue, we see almost a similar mistake coming into turn 5 there, and now Tyan's made up a position, and now we look at Werschel. Werschel's falling further back. He's at risk for Grim Lilith, but Grim Lilith slows down just a bit. It's going to take the outside. That's not going to be enough. Werschel's going to hold the place, but there you go. That's it. That's the mistake it takes. And again, now Tyan trying to push in forward, get back to where they were before.
Just take a mental screenshot as well as all those cars that were on the back straight. We were looking at probably about, there's at least double-digit amount of cars that were in one picture there, all across different classes that our GT3 leaders are now really starting to roll through the field. This is the mid-pack of our GT, or our TCR Pro Grid, and they're now starting to get P3. Our podium fight is starting to roll through and really disrupt things, so the chaos is only going to start kicking off even more so now than it was earlier, as it's going to really stretch these drivers to try to manage that traffic, as we see the 366 trying to get a battle against Electroshocks, I believe that is, in the 75. This is the battle for P3 as they run down the main straight. These M2s, only a rolling chicane for them, just trying to manage their own race. But we talked about those incidents. And the M2 is not really capable of changing direction very well. And if you really throw them off their brake mark or put a little bit too much steering lock, ABS is extremely aggressive and stops the car from slowing down significantly. So I think that might be where we're seeing some of those incidents coming down into turn 6 that's causing so many issues. Sending Tyan and Wushel off, just getting a little bit too deep in that ABS, just going really, really wide. Only, of course, going to hurt them, but that's just opened up such a massive gap for Taichi, who is in the pits right now, actually. Now I've started scanning for them. I was curious where they went, but they've disappeared into the pits, maybe trying to sneak in a pit stop while everyone else is dealing with all this traffic.
Possibly. They were possibly caught up in a bunch of traffic themselves, and that's why they decided to pit, and that's a part of the strategy here. I want to point out something as well. If you look at Sauce Dragon and Zezorus right now, they are in the midst of positions that are in front of the AMs in the GT3, so there's a bunch of mix-ups here. People trying to gain positions, people trying not to get in the way, people are trying to get by. It's of course, as we say, multi-class madness.
Yeah, absolutely. Sauce Dragon, we actually saw taking advantage last time out in Brands Hatch of all the chaos and moving to the top of the GT4 grid. So very good management from them to really get themselves to the front of the grid throughout these races, as Randomie is starting to really put pressure on to Denak. Rolling through the back section, a lot of curve there, pushing that M2 wide. You can see how that car just jumped and lost all contact with the road for a moment there. That's going to get a little bit of aid towards Denak. Just look at that gap up ahead. Every one of those cars is a PCR car, or M2 Cup car, however you wish to phrase it. And those are all of our pro grids. We see some of the GT3s also sneaking in the background as well as one of our M2s, but right in front of us, Randomie getting right back up to the rear end of Denak underneath the braking end of that straightaway. It's a very, very big overtaking opportunity. You don't really have one here until maybe about turn 6 if you're really lucky, but it looks like it's going to be too far back from Randomie without some kind of mistake from Denak.
Yeah, and as we know, Denak, one of the winners of, actually the winner of our Simufur Silver Class Championship a little bit ago. I mean, Denak's been having solid drives every time he gets behind the wheel of a car. I know Denak just doesn't fall under pressure too much, so you have to really put it on and the onus on Denak to make sure that he drives perfect. Of course, Randomie knows this, just trying to stay really close, get the pressure under Denak, so to force a mistake to make it back. I think the best possibility for that would be to throw in the traffic. Now, as you can see in our timing screens here, you see that orange one next to the drivers' names right now. That is the drivers that have yet to pit. All the ones that have a green next to their name, those ones have already pitted. So as we can see, Taichi with the overall lead, taking into account pit stops right now, and right behind that, I believe that is, I believe that's Christian that's right behind there, and then Saber. So we don't know yet. We got the rest of the traffic that also has to file through, but the battles for every position are that much more. Whoa, as I think Randomie had a little bit of a moment there, but yes, as the battles heat up for every single position, every 10th counts, every way you deal with traffic counts, as we see Grim Lilith there on the right of your screen now taking a pit stop.
Yeah, looking like it's going to be a tricky race throughout the rest of this. I mean, Randomie pushing the limits there, getting a big slide, starting to show where those tires are coming off the J-Peg very deep under the brakes there, possibly getting too fixated on the M2s and just letting things get away from them. But I think this drive between Randomie and Denak will go on for quite a while, because it is not the easiest track to overtake with a momentum car like these M2s. Just even the idea of sending it around the outside kind of sends shivers down your spines, really trying to get the momentum to roll the car through the corner. So I think it might be Randomie actually looking like trying to go for a move around the outside, but too deep, and that's a perfect kind of visualization of what I was just talking about. The car doesn't want to stick around that outside. You really got to try to kind of force a mistake out of the other driver, move them around on track, and then position them into where you want.
I'm wondering if Randomie is starting to lose their tires just a bit. I mean, you can clearly see after coming out of turn 6 and 7 there, the car was sliding all over the place, trying to get back and square and set into position, going into the straight. So I'm wondering if they're going to think about going in the pit soon, as I think Swingley got involved in a slight incident. We're not going to catch ears. Oh, yes, and again, making contact with, I believe that is the 272 of, I think that's Durg? No, that is Newt. That is Newt. So, a little bit of argy-bargy. That GT3 trying to force themselves out there. I'm not sure if Newt's very happy with that.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I mean, it's hard to be happy with a lot of things of the lower class car because so much of the race feels like it's taken out of your hand. Of course, there's little things here and there that you can do to help manage things, make it so you're losing a little bit less time, but always very, very, very frustrating is going around the outside of Dip, who's just left enough space for Swinging there. Swinging actually losing a little bit of time just running a wide and 4, but yeah, it's the strategy's really starting to kick off at this point. I don't think we would have seen tires coming off too much. We mentioned it with Randomy's tires possibly falling off. Could be falling outside of the window though. When you have a stoppage like that in the middle of the race, very easy for those tires to fall off. But we still have battles all over the grid. GT4 has Cohen. Sauce Dragon is also chasing down one of the GT3s even, as well as Vossi, I believe, holding another battle of their own up in M2's. Chase actually just got passed by a GT3, so
looks like Cohen and Araz both pitted at the same time, so they're going to be putting in, I think this is for possibly P5. Yeah, they both pitted at the same time and then pulling out now. Skylar Leparcho and Zizors both have to pit, but they got in ahead pretty quickly because they weren't involved in the incidents. And as we saw before, Araz was involved in that major incident with, I believe, Blade Wolf early on during the safety car. So yeah, we got positions all over the place for the taking. But whoever can keep their nose clean out there, that's gonna decide whether or not you get a good position here today.
yeah, it's going to be a big part, actually, a little bit of a slide coming in from the Maserati on entry there. But look how mixed up this grid is. The strategy is all over the place as well. Several of our drivers needing to pit and needing to just kind of keep their pace up to manage where they're going to be coming out once they exit the pits. Simon Luck, Ty, and Fox looking for the most to gain by staying out here. Of course, they can only stay out for another 7 minutes. As well as maybe a little bit from Zizors if they're able to keep that pace up as well. But it's so impossible to tell in these situations where any of these cars are. You have the on-track battles with the likes of Ty and Fox and Simon Luck here, but you also you have so many people that are just basically running time trials against each other, and until they're not allowed to pit anymore, it's impossible to tell what's going on.
I think right now, as it stands, according to my predictions here, Cammers is going to come out first here after the pit windows are done, followed by, it's close between Sarah and Zephyr. Zephyr just went in now for their pits, so it's going to be pretty close to see where Sarah comes out in terms of when Cammers comes through, not Cammers, I'm sorry, Zephyr comes through their pits. As we can see, Sarah is coming through. I believe that is turn 6 and 7. And I believe right now the average pit stop total from entrance to exit is about 53 seconds. So this is going to be a race to see whether Zephyr, who is currently in the pits right now, as you can see on your screen, manages to come out in front of Sarah if Sarah is going to make it around. So we're going to see right there. And I think that was Randomy, or is that Zizors? I think that was Zizors pulling out of the pits there. But yeah, we're gonna take a look as we can see Sarah right now still coming through. I believe that is turn 12. So they are almost at the end where the pit starts. And then if we take a look at Zephyr again, I believe they are just now starting to move. This is gonna be pretty close. We'll see. But I think Zephyr's gonna get the better of this one, I think, because now Sarah is only coming to the start-finish line now. Zephyr should be exiting the pit shortly, I think. I didn't see him on the screen, so he should be exiting. Oh, no, he's not close yet. Okay. No, maybe Sarah will get by. We shall see in a moment. And there's Sarah. Yep, Sarah did manage to get by. And there you can see right behind there's Zephyr. So Sarah manages to get a place, and I think that is overall P2, as I think Electro still has to pit. So Sarah, with the undercut, I think making it work, now gaining a position over Zephyr. Well done to Sarah.
Yeah, big gain. Of course, that traffic probably playing a big part. Zephyr they're staying out and fighting that traffic for a little bit longer. I mean, the gap dropping to 8 seconds very easily can be caused by traffic. Easy to lose 1, 2 seconds, let alone 8 if you're sticking out there for quite a while. So very, very easy to find yourself in a situation like that. But we now see Weiss actually starting to put pressure on the back end of Zephyr. Take that P4 spot. Zephyr needing to get those tires up to temperature, otherwise they're at a disadvantage right now. But we have a couple other cars also sneaking in to the pits as well. I think on our pro grid we have Denak and Kvik also snuck in. And Electroshock up at the front of the field has snuck into the pits as well. JPEG, I think an incident, I think that's turn 2.
I think that is
possibly contact or something like that for them, as they were, looked like a little bit spun around on the exit of one.
We're going to go ahead and take a look, see if we can actually find out what happened to JPEG there. Let's take a look. So this is the start-finish line. Coming around, I wonder if they just overdid it here. Oh, take it out. I think that was Taichi. Taichi,
Yeah,
the number 32. Yeah.
That was our pro leader, effectively, that JPEG just took out there. So that's massive in the order of how things are going to change out. Because Taichi has now lost out. You saw Simon Luck actually sneak through, and Simon Luck has inherited the effective race lead now for M2s.
I think so. Taking a look here, Ty and Fox, the only one left to pit. Yeah, Simon's in the lead. That was big. He fell behind Wershow, Grimm, Vossi from that incident. And, oh, I can't imagine the amount of damage that's in the back ends. You can see maybe struggling a little bit, also dealing with traffic. But, wow, what an incident. Almost bizarre. Just laid on the brakes from JPEG and ran right into him. Oh, as we see, I think that's the Academy driver, Lappy, that just spun there at the exit of 13 there, but manages to get it going real quickly.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a scare for the Lamborghini, but yeah, I mean, that really explains just needing to survive the race more than anything. I mean, Simon did have pace and looked like they were going to be challenging Taichi, but Taichi was in a good spot, knowing that they were able to hold position there and really kind of manage the fact that they were in the lead. This isn't the easiest track to overtake on. And then a big punt like that, again, slightly out of the control of Taichi, and very, very unfortunate, but it is what it is. And actually another bit of contact coming in from JPEG and Grimlilith there, and I think that was...
That's
Vossi
like
there.
A little
bit of neck. Oh,
runs
immediately
into
more
him.
Contact with the 15. Vossi taking another bit of...
and there's a lot of traffic. Oh, there was a lot of traffic there. That was Vossi, in which JPEG managed to hit. Thankfully, not taking them out. Just a comment there. I am incredibly amazed how Vossi managed to hang on to that and keep it going. That was quite a bit of driving from the TGR driver there, and JPEG just getting it going there. But wow, that's the risk of multi-class there. You go side by side, and sometimes you just don't see him, and you end up just running into him.
Yeah, I'd have to say it almost looked like JPEG maybe just squeezing the other cars a little bit too much. Vossi definitely an innocent victim there on the inside, but perhaps a misjudgment. It's hard to say. It's a very, very tricky situation to kind of judge without being able to go back and dissect it a little bit more.
Something happened to Cameras. I'm seeing Sarah has managed to take the lead of the race. Oh wow, that is a new development. I'm gonna go ahead. I have a replay of the incident here. Let's see what happened to what was our race leader.
Oh, just the inside diving. Oh, a little bit of curb. You know, he talked about it in qualifying that the Lamborghini doesn't like curbs.
And there goes Sarah right there, and manages to take the lead. And just like that, that is how the lead changes hands in the race. Sarah now our effective race leader, as I believe the pit window is closing in 30 seconds. So now all bets are off. Everyone now is just trying to get to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I mean, I'd think Sarah is trying to rush that checkered flag more than anyone else. Cameras is certainly going to be on a charge. Their fastest lap looking like it may be a touch faster than Sarah, so it'll be very, very interesting to see. Yeah, looking about 3/10 faster than Sarah. So if they're able to pull that out, that could become very, very interesting for our overall lead battle. And of course, we see Taichi now getting pressure put on from behind from Christian, who had incidents early in this race. So all three of these drivers actually, Denak in the back as well, trying to make a recovery drive, and possibly another incident from Cameras. It looks like we had an off track, and that gap's opened up to 4 seconds from about 1.5. And you can only imagine that maybe patience is running out for many of these drivers. Tempers are flaring. People are trying to send things maybe they wouldn't be as comfortable with. And it looks like it could in the background. Zephyr almost going for a dive. And just, oh, every one of these drivers having to back out from every move that they send. And even the GT4 is almost running over the GT3s in front of them. It is just chaos all around as we go 2 wide through 12, 3 wide. And this
and Weiss making the pass through Zephyr there. What an amazing move, making him catch the traffic. And Weiss, oh, Zephyr almost running in, going super wide. Looks like almost an incident. Oh, looks like he's spinning or catching the spin. And makes contact at the end there, but I think that's the number 38 of. Oh my goodness, I can't even say it. I think that was Dip that made contact with the number 38. But what a move by Weiss, coming in the inside, making it 3 wide, basically trapping Zephyr out on the outside into traffic, picking him off, and just like that, Weiss is now in the top 3.
Yeah, sneaking in at the last moment there. It looks like we just took a better advantage of being able to see what was developing in front of them. Zephyr didn't really have a chance to pick where they wanted to go. They were kind of forced to that outside line just with where they caught the traffic. And it's only caused all sorts of issues as Saber jumping out of the way of the 366. It certainly was no business with any of the traffic that is coming through. I've probably had enough scares of their own. It looks like they're stuck behind that train that is on the recovery drive up ahead. But that's your battle for the top 3 overall that you saw in your picture there, all the ways down to the end of the grid. While Vic is chasing down Suzuka Shark towards the tail end of our pro field, too, just trying to make it through this race, just trying to survive as we roll through 6 and going into 7. And very, very hard track again for these M2s to overtake them. But it looks like Suzuka didn't exactly get the best exit. So Vic is going to be able to look side by side going into turn 8. Looks like we might be trying to get a large dive around the outside. And Suzuka a little bit narrow, but taking that inside line. Vic has backed out. Maybe just trying to settle in for the main straightaway. Just trying to bring the car home, really, for anyone. I think at this point, if you can just bring the car home in one piece, it's already an achievement.
I think so, given all the incidents we've seen. I mean, I will still say this is not as bad as Brands Hatch, because that one, the entire time, there were just cars everywhere. We also had a safety, well, we had a code 50. We did not have a safety car during that event, but it's still just the amount of contact we've seen today, mostly multi-class between classes. I'm surprised that a lot of these M2 drivers are still with us. Now, taking a look at the positions we've gained so far, is I think I saw something pop up with Weiss. I think might have just tapped something out there. Oh, Weiss goes really wide. Oh, loses the rear end just a little bit, just trying to hang on. But we pull forward with Cameras here. Cameras has made their way and has now caught up to Sarah within a second. But there's Grim Lilith there. I think he's going to back out, as I think that's also JPEG Fox right behind. Oh, that just goes in, makes contact on the inside, and spins right into the infield of, I believe that was turns 9 and 10, and now has to rejoin. Lost the position to Weiss and lost the position to Zephyr, just making sure to rejoin safe. And just like that, Weiss, who has had such a clean race, is now in P2. I could not imagine a better day than Weiss right now, who started in P3 overall and has now made his way up to P2. Another hard charger for today, if I may say so, is Simon Luck and Werschel right behind. Both of them are up 8 places. Of course, with everything going on, Simon Luck currently leading the pros in the M2 class right now, and Werschel in second. But wow, what a turn of events. I mean, we had Cameras pretty much leading almost the entirety of the race, and now Sarah, who's leading in front, Weiss behind, and Zephyr for overall lead. What a turn of events here in the closing stages as we have 15 minutes left to go here in Indianapolis.
Genuinely, what is going on? Because every time we look away from someone, something happens somewhere else on track. Immediately. It's impossible to catch all this because every single time you think it's settled down, oh, the lead battle settled down, people are starting to get, nope, here comes another train. It's just derailing every single race. So back on with our M2 leaders. You can see the GT3 leaders also sneaking through, just trying to find a gap. We's actually closing that gap by a little bit just with the traffic here, so could be something that develops later on in this race. It looks like Sarah does have a faster lap than Weiss, but Weiss has been putting in faster laps more recently. Of course, Zephyr now behind. You see the Viper, I'm going to call it for the rest of this event, is going to be filling in through turn 11. Well, they're in the battle for P2 overall. We saw them lose out to Weiss, possibly having a little bit more pace. And judging off of the last couple laps, they have significantly more pace and looking to take that P2 spot back, maybe even a charge to P1 if they're able to get it clean and quick enough.
We're going to ride on board with Zephyr here, managing to get what looks like a good run through the start-finish straight. You saw some traffic there. I think that was Ty and Fox. That was there coming into turn 1, making a look there. Not sure if they're going to try the enormous dive. Oh, hits the brakes hard. Not enough. Making it back out, but just like that, they're really close to Weiss there. This is the battle for second place in the AM class and GT3s. Now, of course, Weiss with that brilliant move of traffic we saw earlier now has to defend their position as Zephyr right behind in that Viper Mercedes, I'm gonna call it that, comes through and challenges for second place, that second spot on the podium. Can Zephyr make it work out? Doesn't have a lot of time left. 13 minutes. However, it is plenty of time to get the move done, but if you make a mistake at this point, it's going to be that much harder to possibly take that extra step to second place. We shall see if Zephyr can do it.
Yeah, and I just want to say, I mean, looking through our current leaderboard, as you can say, excluding GT4, there's no one remotely close to where they were in the standings. Simon Luck taking a big step up. Wushel may be the closest, currently sitting in P3 in the standings and P2 overall. Ty and Fox coming in not having had a remarkable first round and is up on the opposite end of this leaderboard, having sitting in 16th overall on the leaderboards at the bottom of the M2 grid, currently fighting for a podium. I mean, we have everyone spread out everywhere. Our previous race winner, Harper Jackson, Grim Lilith, the many different names you could throw them under. The previous race winner, while they're fighting for their lives to even hold on to P4 here, might drop to P5. No one is able to really control where they are in the track at the moment. It is just a battle for survival here, but Denak trying to get the run onto Grim Lilith, onto the main straight here, set the car up for the long run down 4/10 back. You'd have to imagine that Grim Lilith will stay safe until those GT4s back there have anything to say about it, because the RRP pair of Zezors and Sauce Dragon are going to be immediately coming through and causing any chaos on any plans that these two had for the rest of the race.
Well, I also know someone is quickly approaching. Someone sound the Jaws music. The blue-y shark car of, I believe that's Wolpen, is coming up to this battle we're currently watching between Vossi and Grim. We shall see what happens, as you can see, and I think that's also right behind them, I think, is, let's see, that is the, I believe the, what's that, RRP car of Zezors. Now, I do want to comment, out of all the chaos that's happened so far, out of everything we followed, we saw a lot of GT3 to M2 incidents and M2 to GT3 incidents. GT4s have been relatively clean, with the exception of what happened during the safety car with Blade Wolf. And I have to say, I'm surprised given everything that's going on. I think Cameras lost another position? Or did Cameras have a yellow flag? I think Cameras spun coming through that turn. Hang on a second. I saw something pop up.
They spun off of the M2s, right?
I think so. Let's see here. I think that was through turns 12 and 13. moment, because that's Zephyr right in front. Oh no, just goes really wide there. Just has to slow the car to a near crawl. Okay, that's what happened.
The Lamborghinis we saw just tend to struggle through that section of track too. We saw Lappy struggling through there as well. So just a characteristic of the car not wanting to work with the track in that circumstance, as Denek has now charged all the ways up to Taichi and is starting to put pressure onto the back end of the 32, who is dealing with damage, as we saw from the impact that they took from the Ferrari earlier in the race. I want to say I know JPEG coming in to turn 1 it was. That 32 really just trying to hang on to P6 the best they can. Denek really starting to apply pressure, and now GT3s coming through the likes of Swingley starting to try to find a gap and weave through this traffic. Denek diving to the inside. Swingley maybe trying to look as well, but the gap is closed very quickly as Taichi asserts where they want to be on track and forces the GT3 to back out, of which they unfortunately have to oblige for the case of their race, but able to stick out of trouble. Swingley looking like they little bit of a gap to the cars in front and safe behind, so they smartly just preserve their space on the track there. And Taichi really just trying to strangle everything out of this car and get that final little bit of performance out as we eke into the final 10 minutes of this race here. So looking at about maybe 5 laps to go for our slower class drivers, maybe 6 to 7 depending when you catch the line for our GT3s. So a lot more racing to go, but you can see Denek does not want to wait and is just closing that gap. A little bit of a struggle getting turned in for 10, and Wolfen I think has an incident on the banking there.
Oh, and that's where we saw them. There goes Taichi. There goes Denek right there. So, ooh, thankfully managing not to get in the way. Wolfen is just trying to get through this, not spin much, as we see. I think that was Randomy going on the grass there at the end, and saw a lot of dust get kicked up. But anyway, back to it. You think there was a little bit of team orders there with Swingley coming through there? Taichi and Denek both just trapping them in there.
I don't think that you have the time to coordinate team orders with the amount of things going on right now. Like, it is going so crazy that right now, if you just try to drive your line, certainly you're going to get thrown off of it. So I think it is just Swingley decided, I don't want to die here, and kept themselves safe. Well, that was the smart thing to do, and they backed out. But it's so hard to predict anything in this race, honestly. I think all these drivers are just sitting on an island of their own, just hoping that they aren't going to get shoved off of it. There isn't going to be flash flooding even, but we're going to see Taichi going a little bit wide, looking through the point of view of Wolfen here, coming into 7. Denek looking for maybe a little bit of a cutback, as there is going to be no team orders for the battle, and it's going to be a spin for Wolfen to the inside there. You could hear the rear wheels just light up, but through the front of the field, you're going to see Taichi looking to hold on to this position against Denek, going a little bit deep. Denek looking for the cutback to try to get the round side, the outside of 9, but not able to get there. So having to wait yet another lap as the momentum is lost.
And that's just right there. I mean, I don't think there's any team orders here, as I see someone on the grass there. That's Swingley. Whoa! Denek just making the avoiding move there, trying to stay behind, as we see a battle and traffic management going and happening at the same time. We know Swingley is right behind, but Taichi goes a little wide there. Denek looks like he has that M2 planted really nicely, but of course, keep in mind, you got that Porsche that's right behind them right now, bearing down, wanting to get by them, but Denek has the right to the line here as they come through the start-finish line, just trying to stick behind Taichi. Wow, what a maneuver there. Denek avoiding it. There you can go. You see Swingley right behind there where Randomy is. And the thing is, with this battle that they're doing right now, they allow Christian, both Christian and Randomly from behind to creep closer and closer. So they're going to want to either work together and continue to try and push out, or maybe trade places and allow Taichi to follow along with Denek and keep it moving, or they could just take the gloves off and fight, which I think that's what they're doing right now, and that makes for some amazing racing.
Yeah, absolutely. As Taichi's going a little bit deep there, Denak actually having to back out on a tiny bit of contact front to rear. Zwingli backing out as well. Again, just playing the self-preservation game, but Randomly has now started to creep their way in the background there. Gap sitting about a second back. So in any moment, you're going to have this two-car battle turn into a three-car battle. Zwingli just trying to keep the car alive and back out. Make sure they're not running to the back end of Denak there as we roll down the back straight and just trying to get away. Maybe weaving through. Yeah, so this could compromise Taichi's line a little bit. Back them up into Denak. Rolling through 8. And yeah, it looks like Denak able to close right up onto the rear bumper. And actually, I think a tiny bit of contact for Wolfen there from the rear end from Randomly. And then now Wolfen's now going to have to find a way through, which this could be an opportunity for Denak. If they come through at the wrong time, this could push Taichi off of the racing line. But no, the 529 is going to back out and choose to not intervene with this battle. Maybe only going to sit in between these two cars and actually going quite deep under the brakes, forcing Taichi wide in avoidance and across the track, taking out both Wolfen and Denak.
Oh, goodness gracious, almost trying to get to there, and Denak's just sitting there right now on the track trying to turn around, and wow, that sequence of events could not have been worse for them. Both up really far, and now losing spot after spot as Saber, Christian, and Randomly all get ahead of them. As we're jumping ahead here, we can take a look at the battle between Grim and Bossy that has been going on for a few laps as they're trying to make up for their lost positions coming in through the closing stages of this race. This right now is for P4 as, whoa, Bossy gets really close to Grim Lilith, trying to stick a nose in there, force them out wide, but Grim Lilith saying no, taking that apex, telling him, you're going to have to get me in some other way, and forcing the issue with Bossy. Bossy really wanting this spot right now, and we're in the closing stages. I think around 3 laps to go, maybe one more as we come across right now as they both touch the grass there, coming out of turn 7, going down the straight. Does Bossy have the momentum here? Is going side by side. He has the inside here. He's going to break later. Who is going to be the battle late breakers? No. Grim Lilith makes it work out really nicely. Bossy not having much choice to let Grim by and having to fight them for another lap.
Yeah, and the chaos just continues even further up the grid. Actually, I see another battle's closed up with Zephyr, who's able to sneak in as well and going through another bout of traffic. And just ahead, you see Sarah as well trying to find their way through. So this is the GT4s. It's going to cause the GT3s to lose even more time. Rolling through and avoiding contact is Zephyr, just getting out of the way. But all 3 of our top GT3s covered by about 3 seconds even after that mistake. So 1, 2, 3, you can see them all in one picture right before Sarah took off as we roll into the final 3 minutes of the race. I believe this is going to line up to be 2 laps to go for Sarah as she's going to roll through turn 12, line it up for 13, room 366 BMW, trying to find a gap, losing a tiny bit of time. That's going to back them up, but Cameron's also now entering the conversation as well in the background there for P3. They've been able to close the gap to just about a second, traffic pushing them a little bit further back as well. So the chaos does not stop anywhere. 3 wide down the main straight, 3 different classes to go as we roll down to turn 1 one more time. It looks like Zephyr a little bit too far away, but going to be gaining underneath the brakes there as we transfer over to Tyan now, trying to chase down Wushel with its gap sitting at about 0.3 out. This is the battle for second place that is quickly heating up again in the final 2 laps for the end of this race. They could even run out of time. I think they'll get both laps from where the leader was, but it's very quickly coming to a climax here as Tyan has just a short sprint to the end of this race.
And that's, you can see, I mean, Tyan is absolutely pushing this car to its knees, doing everything they can to keep up. As we're going to ride the rear wing of Wursel here. Wursel has the Ornus here, keeping the line, just has to keep Tyan back for a couple more laps. You hear those tires screeching hard, giving everything they've got as Wushel defends hard. Tyan going a little wide. That's going to affect the exit, especially at this corner. This is where you want to get the power down. You want to get it nice and smooth here and slow. You can see how wide just making one mistake in that sequence makes, and Tyan falling a little bit behind, but still in the slipstream as we got 54 seconds left in this race. I believe we're going to be hitting the final laps here shortly. These guys are going to have, I believe, one more after this. So as you can see, coming into the braking zone into turn 1, there's Tyan just right behind doing everything they can, and we're going to actually pop over to Bossy and Grim Lilith as they come into turn 1. They're side by side here. And the leader is on the last lap right behind them. They make contact. Looks like Grim Lilith's getting pushed a little bit wide, or they managed to keep it without contact, just side by side coming to turns 2 and 3. And Grim Lilith just holding on for dear life, trying to get around. I think for the leaders there, if they get by them and lap, it's going to be the end of the race. So this may be their last lap. We'll take a look if we see Sarah coming behind. But this is for 4th place coming around here. And I think that was Sarah on your screen, at the top of your screen there. So once Sarah gets by, it will be their last lap. We shall see, but they're to turn 7 here. Now, this is most important. Bossy needs the run here if they want to push in for that final spot. And we got a little bit of traffic here. I think that's Newt coming through in the GT3 car. This may change things up unless Newt decides to think better of it and stay behind him. And it looks like Newt runs over the curb. Bossy losing just a little bit of time, and he's running out of corners here. Unless they can stay ahead. There is Sarah on your screen right now coming into the turn. If Sarah gets ahead of both of them before they get through the checkered flag, it's going to be the end of the race. So you can see Newt forces Bossy out wide. It's going to lose a ton of time going on the outside there. And there's Sarah coming down. This could be it. They're going to come down here. If Sarah lets them stay, they get one more lap of racing, but we shall see. Sarah's right behind Bossy. It could be that Sarah gets ahead of him right at the end. Sarah's going to go around the outside. And Bossy makes a move, trying to get in there. There goes Sarah. So this is going to be end of the race. And we see Sarah cross the line. Sarah has won it today. And in this race here, Grim Lilith manages to just finish ahead of Bossy. Wow, what a finish. Weiss comes in second there, along with Zephyr right behind. We get another group of cars coming around. I think that's, I believe that's Leparcho coming in right now for... I believe that is 3rd place in class. Ooh, yes. What an event as we get. I believe the next one up to finish here is Taichi, and I think we're still waiting on the leaders. Simon Luck is actually the leader of the M2 class. They haven't finished yet, as we can see Lappy behind and Tyan is still racing. I believe Werschel for 2nd place as they come around. Now this is for position. They get this lap here, and so Tyan is going to try and get that final spot up at the podium as they come around here. I believe that is turns 10 and 11 going into 12. Tyan really close here, trying to put the pressure on Werschel, less than 4/10 away. Needs to get the momentum, needs to get the run here. May go for a dive, but I think better of it. I think he'll stay behind, trying to get the last section and the last turns, which of course he does. He's going to stay behind. Now, I believe 2/10 down, trying to get in real close, moving through. Coming through turns 14 and 15. This is the last shot for Tyan to get ahead, and I don't think he's going to. I think Werschel is going to hold it. He does. Coming across, they're going to try and drag race it out, but Werschel gets the better of it, taking 2nd place, and Tyan takes 3rd. What a finish here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
And somehow we got everything sorted back into their proper groups minus 2 cars.
I don't know.
I'm not really sure how, because everything was chaos. But about everyone finished within their proper groups, minus a few incidents that it took to get there. But yeah, I mean, how do you sum up a race like that? I mean, I think the top 4 in GT3 ended up closing to about 4 and a bit seconds. I think it was about 4.5 seconds by the line, just from what I saw when I glanced over. GT4 had the battle for the podium to the end. I think Zezers comfortably took the win, but Sauce Dragon as well in P2. But the battle for the podium went all the way to the line. We saw that close into less than a 10th. There was no gap for breathing for us, the drivers. A fan of any of the drivers in particular, there was nothing. There was no relaxation during that race.
Oh, no, but you know what? That's just the way I like it. I mean, given all of these cars that are here, everything that they've done, I mean, Wow, what a race. We're just waiting for the final results to populate here. I think there will still be a few incidents for review, but let's just go ahead and just close it out. What a race overall. We'll start with our pro field in the M2s. What an amazing display of racecraft from pretty much all of them. Simon Luck basically taking that luck with him all the way to the finish, finishing first in their class today. Wow, that's incredible. Followed by Worshel and Tyan with that amazing race to the end there. Worshel taking second place and then Tyan in third. Grim, Lilith, and Vossi all the way to the end. Tooth and nail fighting with the traffic, and Grim Lilith making the best of it, coming in fourth place, and Vossi rounding out your top five. Then Randomie with sixth place, and then Christian in seventh. You have Saber in 8th place with a decent drive, and Denak with a few good battles out there, a couple of unfortunate incidents, but manages to finish in the top 10, with Newt rounding out all of your top 10 in 10th place. And then we have Dip that came in 11th, and Kivik in 12th, followed by Suzuka Shark in 13th, and then Taichi and Azure round up 14th and 15th, and some unfortunate incidents there. Azure, I believe, retiring in the race, I think, pretty early on. Whew. Let's round out our GT Force here. Plasma?
Yeah, Caesars, we saw, took a relatively calm win. I mean, it's hard to say with how the race was going on. It's very likely missed half of the race for them. The RRP are going to get a 1-2 lockout with that P1 and P2. Leparcho sneaking in for a top 3 as well in that KTM. A car I wasn't expecting to finish in the top 3 on around a track like this where straight line speeds are so prominent. And of course the Janetta finishing in P4 for Oraz Volpez, so doing a very, very good job there. And 2 of the more nimble cars, so good job on their part. Skylar Vixen's going to be taking that P5 spot in the home race for the Camaro. Cohen in the Maserati taking P6. And Blade Wolf with a rather difficult race is going to be filling out P7. That Porsche came in that you see driven by Firebrand. It was our safety car having to do 3 laps of processional parading, you could say.
And then,
oh boy.
Oh, yes, our AM class today with probably most of the action, aside from the pros battling it out. But of course, Sarah with a surprising win today, but not such a surprise considering how clean they managed to drive today. And that was the name of the game, especially in today's race. Sarah, our overall winner today, a great drive, followed by Weiss also making the clean drive work, followed down by Zephyr in third, and that rounds out your podium today. And wow, just the fight between Weiss and Zephyr, it was a traffic race. And it was quite amazing to see the moves that were pulled off by both drivers. Of course, Weiss getting the better of it here. Then, of course, Cameras with the unfortunate spinning incident on, I believe that was turn 8, but still manages to hold it together with the fastest lap of the day, comes in 4th place. A decent drive from them, followed by Electroshock in 5th. Also another one of those that did their best to keep it clean. Of course, Oily Rags in 6th place, followed by Lappy in the RRP Academy car in 7th. Swingley in 8th place, and then rounding out your top 10, the Bluey car of Durg at number 9th, and then JPEG Fox in 10th. Then, of course, in their debut in the Ford Mustang GT3 was the Windows Explorer Bluey car of Wolfen in 11th, and then, of course, Snowdog with some unfortunate incidents in the beginning with their Porsche in 12th, retired, I believe, after 10 laps. But as we take a look today, I mean, what a race. Just everything you could ask for. Drama, traffic management, incidents, great racing side by side. I mean, it was all here today.
Yeah. Oh, it's... mentally, I'm already destroyed from running the Nürburgring 24 hours, but this was an endurance of its own, not just for us, for the drivers. I mean, you could say there's a taste of endurance racing in all of this and just the traffic management and survival. And of course, we're going to be going to more traditional endurance tracks coming through the rest of this season. It'll be interesting to say, of course, these are all the provisional results. There's still plenty of opportunity for these results to change after penalties and further additions to the, or for just the additions and, oh, what's the word? And not acclamations, but us having to make results for any protests or any kind of disqualifications or so on and so forth. As I'm sure the stewards are going to be quite busy tonight. There's plenty of contact going on throughout these events. But we head on out to Silverstone, which is going to be a rather chaotic race as we roll through to the second half of our season. That will be starting up in 2 weeks' time. June 9th is going to be when that race is going to roll through next. So actually 3 weeks from now, we'll have a little bit of a mid-season break before we come back for a little bit of extra chaos, and then trying to finish up the season from there. Yep. I look forward to it, but it's man, if this was what a Grand Prix track looks like, I can only imagine what our final race of the season will conclude as.
Oh, that's gonna be a doozy. But until then, I've been Paliku'i Grant with Plasma. You've been with us for the Simufur multi-class madness races here with Simufur. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you in 3 weeks' time. And until then, guys, stay fast, stay on track. We'll see you guys all next time.